Relocating to the French Riviera sounds like a dream. But what about building a career? How do you make it work? Hello, and a warm welcome to Living the Dream French Riviera, the podcast where we explore women's professional journeys while relocating to the south of France. I'm your host, Cecile Liconnet. Today, we're joined by Cathe, who went from freelancing as an English teacher to founding her own training center, helping hundreds of professionals in France gain confidence in speaking English. We'll hear how she navigated the complexities of French administration, tackled the challenges of earning the sought-after Qualiopi certification, and ultimately built a thriving business. And finally, we'll discover how she made France her home and get a glimpse of her own version of the French Riviera. Catherine, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
I'm really excited to hear about your journey, your move to south of France, how you established your language school, and what it takes to build a sustainable career here as a foreigner. But first, let's go back a little. Can you take us back to the beginning and what first brought you to France?
So we came to France in 2008. We landed in Paris, not in the south of France. And we came from Singapore. So that was a bit of a shock. And then we came to the south of France in 2014. So we've been here for just over 10 years now in the south of France. So we actually came because my husband was working for a company in Singapore, which then closed, and he ended up getting a job with one of his clients based in Paris. So my husband and I came, and we had an 8-month-old son at the time. So he doesn't remember Singapore at all, obviously. So we came, the three of us, to Paris. I'm English, and I actually went from England to Japan for 1 year, and I stayed for 3 years, and then I went to Singapore. I've actually never been home again. So the 1 year trip ended up being very many years.
And how did you move from Paris to the south of France? What triggered that move?
Well, my husband, he had his experience in the French company, which lasted a short time because for many reasons, but it was a very French company, let's say. And then he was working for a Canadian company, so he had no real base. And at the time, I was working in some universities, so I knew it was something that I could leave and start again somewhere else. And my husband studied here. So he told me, south of France, it's really nice. You can ski and you can go to the beach and there's lots of beautiful nature. And we can, more importantly, we could buy a house here for the price of an apartment where we were just outside Paris. So we decided to come and have a look, and I agreed. It was very nice. And so that's how we ended up in the south.
How did you picture your future life after visiting the south of France for the first time, maybe? How is it different now from what you pictured at the time?
Well, the first time we came to look at houses, it poured with rain for a whole week, non-stop. It was in February, so I didn't see the best side of the Côte d'Azur. But I suppose I imagined that I would be at the beach every day and skiing every weekend. And it's not quite like that. It's more like real life, even though we go to the beach and ski. But I suppose it's just a real life in a beautiful place.
Did you speak any French before the move?
I was lucky because I did speak quite okay French. I studied French at school. And then when I met my husband, he's Swiss-Turkish, and I could speak to his family in Turkish or in French. So obviously French was the easier choice. So I already spoke okay French. I think that was a good start because starting from nothing must be very difficult with coming to France with no French.
But you also speak several other languages, so you have a thing for languages. And so it was not like, I can see many expats, they come with English only, and when they have to learn French, they have to learn grammar and everything. Having lived in Japan for 3 years before, your brain probably had the capability of thinking differently, and probably you had some plasticity in your brain that helped.
Yes, I mean, I'd already learned other languages. I had the basics of French already. And I was not afraid to speak because well, I could already speak a little, and I was not afraid to go out and speak and make mistakes. And I think that's the most important thing.
Is this what you teach to your students today? Like,
Yes.
speak and don't be afraid.
Yes, just do it, just speak. And if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. I remember when I went to see the paediatrician in France for the first time. And he said to me, how do you clean your baby's nose? And we have this thing, you know, that you squeeze. In English, it's called an aspirator. So I told him, avec l'aspirateur, which of course in French is a vacuum cleaner. And he looked at me in horror. I'm surprised he didn't call the social services then and there.
What challenges did you face during the relocation process? Or maybe this had happened before when you arrived in Paris, the shock and the culture shock.
It was Paris, yes, because we'd just come from Singapore. And in Singapore, everything is so easy. The administration is easy. You don't really pay any tax. And so there were so many things that were shocking for us. We had a big apartment in Singapore. It's easy to get people to help in your house. Whereas we arrived in Paris and we were looking at tiny apartments, and the first pay slip my husband got from his company, he went to HR and he said, there's a mistake on my pay slip because I only got half the money. And they said, no, this is what you have to pay in France. And we had no idea. So that was a shock. He was very surprised, and HR were laughing at him.
And especially you were mentioning having help in Singapore. You were needing daycare, I suppose, with an 8-month-old.
Yeah, so when I started working, I managed to find somebody, and then actually we found really good nursery in our street. So that was great. Actually, the French childcare system has been amazing for us. Really, once we understood how it worked, then it was fantastic. I'm very happy to have had my children in France.
Moving to a new country comes with a lot of unknowns, especially when it comes to work, even though it wasn't your first try. Let's talk about your professional journey. What was your career path before the move, and how did it evolve once you arrived? So you said that you were already teaching English in different countries, so I suppose in Japan, in Singapore,
yeah.
And you said you were affiliated with universities in France. So this went smoothly? It was...
Not exactly. I worked with the British Council in Japan and Singapore, but then I couldn't transfer to the British Council in Paris. So I came here with no job. And I was very lucky because, to start with, the company my husband was working for offered me a job as their in-house English trainer. So I just landed on my feet. And then after that, I'd found different work in universities, but it was not so easy. There was no work in the British Council, and I had to go out and really look for these different jobs. So by the time we left Paris, I had built up some really good jobs, but I was working freelance for several different places.
At some point, you made the leap from being a freelance teacher to setting up your own language school. What made you take that step?
When I left Paris, I thought I would find similar jobs in the south of France because I really had some good jobs in private business schools, for the military academy, with private companies. But when I came here, I went to some of the schools, they didn't need anybody, and I realized I wasn't going to find the same quality of job that I had in Paris, and the pay was not going to be the same. So I worked for a year for it was for the executive education branch of one of the schools here, but I really didn't like my boss or the pay, and I decided I know how to set up a training company in France, so I will just do that again. And that's what I did.
So would you say it was a practical or an emotional decision?
Both. Yes. I didn't want to work with my boss anymore, so that was the emotional side. And practical, it made sense because I knew how to do it. So I decided I can earn more money this way, so I'd rather be my own boss. For a few years I transitioned, so I had work. I still worked in the university here, but I was doing my own things on this as well. So there was a transition time before I totally went over to working only for myself.
What was the process of setting up your language school? What were the biggest hurdles? Because can you just set up as an auto-entrepreneur and say, okay, now I have a school? What's the difference actually between being an English teacher, like an auto-entrepreneur English teacher, we'll have to explain what auto-entrepreneur is, the English teacher, to being the same person but with a language school? What's the difference?
Yes. So at the time, it was one way, and now it is evolved. So at that time, the only difference was you had to get it's called a numéro de déclaration from the DREETS, which is the organisation that controls people work, I'm not quite sure. So you had to get a form from them and fill it in to say you were doing professional training for adults and send them some documents, and then they would send you a number. And this was your official, basically a language school number. So you could be doing the same work, but suddenly you're official as a language school. So nowadays, it's totally evolved because all freelance English teachers need to have that number. And now to be a language school, there are a lot of other hurdles that you have to jump over.
Because you set up your language school before this, did you skip those hurdles or did you have to go through the whole process?
It would have been nice to skip the hurdles. But no, I had to. Sometimes I feel like I am a frog, the proverbial frog in the cold water, slowly being boiled, but not realising, because I went from that and I have been through every single change, of which there are a lot, to get to where I am today. Because not long after I started, there was a reform of training in France. And so they introduced a lot of new measures and we had to jump through a lot of hoops. So every year or every couple of years, there was another thing that we had to do. And so I've been there from the beginning, so I've been able to slowly go through all of these hoops, one after another, and they gradually get worse. It's like going to another level in the video game.
There's a huge international community here in the south of France. You're an actually trained teacher. What makes you different? Do you think it's an advantage that you were trained to be a teacher rather than any Anglophone person who comes to the south of France and decides to teach English?
Yes, definitely, because you need to learn how to teach. Some people want to do a language exchange, you can just chat, that's fine. But if you actually want to go into teaching, I think you need to learn teaching skills. How do you impart information to somebody? And how do people learn? How can you create the environment for learning? So I think it's really important to get some training. You can do a short course to get a certificate, which is fine, and then after that you learn with experience. But the best is if you can work somewhere where they will give you also professional development training, which unfortunately not a lot of places do, but that's how you really learn.
One thing that makes your business unique is that you've gone through the process of becoming certified, so professionals can fund their training through the Compte Personnel system. Can you explain to our audience what is it and,
Yes.
and why it is important?
In France, every working person has this thing called a Compte Personnel de Formation, which is a personal training account, and the government puts 500 euros in there every year, which you can use to pay for any training that's available on the website. So there are tens of thousands of options on there. For example, you can go and do a pizza making course, and it's paid for by this fund. So this is great for us because it means that most of our clients can do English training and they're not paying out of their own pocket. And anybody who's working here will have that fund. And also, if you are independent, you have another fund. So there's quite a lot of money available for training in France, but you have to know how to get it.
Do you think it has played a role in growing your business, and would your business be viable without this system?
Oh, it's definitely played a role. If we lost that, we would lose almost all of our turnover at the moment.
French are used to free education.
Yes.
And reluctant to invest in their future.
I think that, people are used to the fact that either their company is going to pay or the government will pay. So that's what they expect. And that's what the system has been. I have seen recently more companies paying directly. So companies do pay for training. But generally, if an individual wants to do English training, they don't really have to think twice because they have this fund available. There is a new rule where you have to pay 102 euros out of your own pocket. But if you're going to do a training that costs 2,500 euros, it's nothing.
The office where we are at the moment, what role did it play? Because at some point you had to make a decision of taking this office and spending some money and all this. Would you tell us a little bit more about your office experience?
Yes, so actually this was my husband's office before it was mine. When he was working for another company, they paid for this office. And he changed jobs just at the beginning of COVID. And so they stopped paying for the office. And I used to come in here and work all the time. And the question for me was, do I continue with the office? Bear in mind, it was in confinement. We were in lockdown. And I didn't know if I could ever have people in the office. But I really liked having a place to work. And actually, I could come here during lockdown because it's 1 kilometre from my house. I was very lucky. So I decided to take the leap and sign for the office, even though I knew that nobody could come here except me. And I didn't know if it was going to pay for itself at that time. And actually, it was a great decision because the location of the office is in an industrial zone. And in this zone, there are some very big companies, international companies. One of them was already my client, and I was hoping that I could get all the others to become my clients as well. And the fact that I'm here, it lends credibility. I'm not a random person working out of my home, even though we do a lot of online work. But I have the office, and now we have people that come to the office and they work with me or with one of my teachers in the office. And also it lends credibility having a premises, even if it's a tiny office.
It's not that tiny. There's like two stations and a coffee machine.
Yes, the most important. And also, the industrial zone has a kind of group, and it's a group so the companies can work together. They're very into sustainability. How can one company who's throwing this away, how can it be reused in another company? A lot of that doesn't apply to me, but I'm part of this group. And so I'm now the secretary of the group. So it means that I'm known amongst the companies in the industrial zone. And that's been fantastic.
And we're in Grasse here, which is the worldwide capital for perfume.
Yes.
You can't miss it because you have the smell all day long. I was a bit worried when I parked the car because you have that strong smell, but once you're in the building, you don't have it.
Yeah.
Are there any representative of perfume companies here in here?
So yes, I think in this industrial zone we have, I think there are at least 5 perfume companies. And there's definitely 2 of them are leading perfume companies in the world.
And they are your clients?
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
Do you think lockdown helped you, or it was a problem, yeah?
I know for a lot of people it was difficult, but for my business it was amazing. Because I was very lucky, my husband wasn't working, so he was doing all the homeschooling. I came to my office because it was only a kilometre from my house. People had suddenly realised that they could do things online. France was very behind in that, in terms of online training, online meetings, etc. So in the lockdown, people had to do it, and then they suddenly thought, oh, I can do training online. Actually, it's quite good. And at the same time, the Compte Formation platform had come out the November before. So people suddenly saw they had all this budget for training. They could do it online. They had time because some people were not working. So we started getting a lot of business from all sorts of random people. And that really grew. We really did grow during lockdown. And the other good thing was that the government gave some big funding for training to companies. So we were able to benefit from that as well.
A-Star Formation is a great name. I remember you were Aygen training before.
Yes.
How did you come up with it, and do you find it resonates with French people? Because obviously it's great to be A-Star Formation when you're training, you want to reach an A-Star, but the French are graded out of 20, so
yes.
Does it resonate with them? Do they click when they hear your name?
No, they don't. They think A-Star Formation. It really doesn't click with them. We chose this, we were in a hurry because we were setting up the company, the SAS, which I set up in 2020, and we had to quickly have a name. So we brainstormed a couple of names, and this one came out. We said, yeah, that's great. And afterwards, I thought, when I said it to somebody French, or they saw it written, and they said, A-Star Formation. And I thought, okay, nobody has any idea what this means, why I chose this. So there we are. It's
because it gives you a great visual identity as well,
yes.
and it makes sense. It's the first letter
yes.
of your name and etc. But no, it's okay.
It doesn't really resonate, but it's the name now, so we are sticking with it.
Maybe it's a way to see if your students have reached the next level in their English language on the day they understand that you're A-Star and not A-Star.
Yes, they reached the A-Star level.
Beyond your clients, your school seems to have opened doors for you in the local community. I believe you've even met the mayor. No?
Only I've been to networking events where he's there. I've shaken his hand, but we haven't really met.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay. How has integrating into the French professional world has been for you?
Integrating into the French professional world is actually easier than you think, because once you're in that world, there are a lot of organisations and networking events and places where you can go, and you're going there as a business owner, and everybody knows that you're there because you have a business. Maybe you're there to network, maybe you're there to find clients. And I didn't realise how much of an ecosystem there is around business. So that's been great. You can just Google what are the networking events, what are the business groups in your area, and just start going along to different events. And now when I go to something, I see people that I've already met, I see people I know, and I always meet new people. It's much easier than it looks. I think going to the first networking events, it was quite scary, and I didn't really dare to do it, but actually I did dare in the end. I also joined a paid business networking group, which was fantastic, but I really researched beforehand who was in the group, who would be somebody that would help me with my business. So that worked really well. If somebody is looking to do the same thing and their market is the French market, just go to as many of these events as you can. Become part of these groups.
These groups they're French. It's full
Yes.
of French people, so
Yes.
you have to speak French all along the way, and
yes,
and maybe they don't mingle the same way. It's always easy when I professionally go to events full of Brits or Americans, it's so easy to connect.
Yes.
Whereas there's not this pattern that you have, like the British are obsessed with where do you come from, where your accent come from. The French, there's not this pattern when you meet someone new. It's just like there's a blank. So how do you get through this?
Well, most people ask me about my accent, actually, when I go to the French networking events. But yes, it can be a little bit awkward because people kind of arrive and stand around a bit awkwardly if they don't know anybody. Other people already know people, so they're chatting to those people, and it can feel really kind of awkward. Going to a networking event full of British or Americans now just feels so easy and wonderful because I've been to so many of the French ones. I think you just have to go and talk to people. Like I literally will just go up and talk to someone on their own and say, hello, what do you do? Everyone in a business networking event, everybody knows why you're there. So you can just go and say, what's your name? What do you do?
What was the most valuable lesson you learned from your experience of setting up your language school? And
I think you're going to have to do administration. There's going to be a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork. So you can't fight it. You have to be like, okay, I'm totally zen about this. And you just have to get through it. You have to find out the information. How do I do this? What do I need? And then go through the steps and get it done. That's the only way. And sometimes finding out the information is the most difficult thing. Once you have the information, you can do whatever you need to do. But the information is not always clearly available. So I actually set up a Facebook group with other training providers so that we could share this kind of information. They either have small companies like mine or they're freelance. So we can ask each other questions, we share information, we don't feel like we're competitors. And this is really invaluable.
how often do you have to renew your certification?
So the audit that we have to do is once every 3 years with a intermediary audit in the middle. But then they're always adding new things. So just this week we found out that we are going to have random checks by the CPF website where they're going to check a lot of the things that we have to show in the audit. And so we will have to be prepared for that now. So it's there are always more things.
Do you feel like this certification process is so complicated because you can get clients who don't actually pay out of their pocket money to get training? It would be easy to set up a training center and have clients paid by the government. Do you think this is why it is so complicated with each time one layer being added? And do you think it helps in having only serious people doing it?
Definitely having the audit has got rid of some of the bad people, I would say, because there were a lot of people scamming, doing fake training. Even now, I think there are companies where you can sign up for the training and they tell you, oh, we'll give you a free iPad, or I'll give you half of the money from your account, from your training account back to you, this kind of thing. So it still exists. But it has got better. I often feel like the government is trying to shut the door after the horse is bolted, so they're trying to catch up with all the bad things that have happened and end up just punishing serious people like me. And there are plenty of companies who are like mine, who are serious, and we just have to jump through more and more hoops. I always say the motto of France is not liberté, fraternité, liberté, égalité, fraternité. It's why be simple when you can be complicated?
This is great. Can you share a moment that made you feel especially proud, something that truly marked a success in your relocation journey?
That's a hard question, because I can't think of any one moment. where I think, oh, I have success in my relocation journey now. Because everything builds up gradually, and the longer I stay here, the more integrated I am in France and French life. And so I can't say this one event has made me especially proud, because I can't think what that would be.
Maybe when you managed the first time to go through the certification process? Not even?
No, because it was just like, okay, I've done that now. What's next? I think it's always, what's next? What's next? So I never have taken the time to think, oh, that actually was quite difficult. I suppose building my company and growing it, we really grew during the lockdown in 2020, and taking on lots of other freelance teachers. I suppose, yes, I'm proud about that, but I've never really taken the time to stop and say, oh, that's really a proud point, because...
So was all this worth all the hurdles? Obviously, yes. What's the next step?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I really want to develop this side of the business. I've been doing some workshops in things like public speaking in English, or managing meetings in English, pronunciation in English, so very specific workshop and techniques. And I would really love to develop that side of the business, because the people that we work with, a lot of French people, they're very obsessed with grammar and being correct and not being able to speak very well, but actually they can speak English, and most people have a really good base in English, but they have no confidence. And I think it's important to do some kind of short workshops where it's fun, where they learn a skill, but they learn that skill in English.
Do you feel like now that you've had children going through the French education system, well, obviously they didn't have English lessons for foreigners. They're in a section where they can get English for natives. But do you feel the way you probably can see it they probably learn German
Spanish.
or Italian and Spanish,
Yeah.
the way languages are taught here, that you can understand why this lack of confidence, and why it's all about grammar, and why somebody is going to show you what's wrong and never show you what you did right.
Oh, yes. I actually wrote about this on LinkedIn today.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was working with my son, I was helping him revise Spanish vocabulary. And he had words like, I don't know how to say in English, syndicalism and political prisoner and author, composer, interpreter, which apparently is one word in Spanish. And I said to him, can you have a conversation in Spanish? Do you do that in class? And he said, no, we haven't done that since Cinquième. And I was shocked, because he's learning all these words, which he's never going to use when he goes to Spain, and he can't have a conversation in Spanish. And surely that's the aim of learning a language, is to have a conversation with a person. So I find that really shocking, and it's not surprising that people are afraid to speak, because the only thing they've done is write and then be corrected because they didn't use a subjunctive, or it's slightly the wrong word here, it's not the word the teacher wanted. And afterwards, when they have to go to work and they have to actually speak English in a meeting, and people don't care if they used the past tense or not, they can't get over that. And sometimes I try to explain to people that actually you can use this tense or you can use that tense, and they're both right. And it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But it's really a whole shift in mindset, trying to understand that.
How the local business culture surprised you?
It's very active, the local business culture. There's a lot of support for businesses. If you have a small business or you're just starting, there are a lot of organisations that will help you for free. You can sign up to different things run by the department, run by your town, and there's really a lot of support. And if you have a startup, for example, there's a huge startup culture here. There are a lot of incubators and accelerators. There's French tech. It's really made to support business. And that surprised me.
Do you think it's proper to Grasse, or it's the same in the entire French Riviera and the Côte d'Azur?
For sure, it's not only in Grasse, it's in the whole of the 06. And as far as I know, it's everywhere else too. If you want to start a business, it's not a bad place to start. I know there are a lot of administrative hurdles, but there are a lot of people to help you over those hurdles and to get you started in business, to give you advice. There are free workshops and all sorts of things, from, you know, which business type to choose to how to run social media. It's really a supportive environment.
Because we always describe the loneliness of the business owner.
Yes.
Is it true, or?
To a certain extent, it is, but it depends what you do. So as I said, I joined this paid business networking group, but I met some really great business owners in there. And I left that group a couple of years ago, but we're still in touch and we still meet up, and I know that I can talk to them about business issues. And so I think it's important to find other business owners, but you have to go out and do that.
Looking back, what do you wish you had known before starting this journey?
Actually, I was going to say I wish I'd known how complicated it is, but I think it's good that I didn't know. Because otherwise maybe I wouldn't have done it.
Do you think your life could have taken a different direction if you hadn't moved to the south? What made you stay? Because France is the country where you've lived the longest as an adult.
Yes, I never would have imagined that. I'm not somebody who said it's my dream to go and live in France, and my husband neither. It was an accident, really. We have sometimes thought about going somewhere else, but once we moved to the south of France, I think if we hadn't come here after Paris, we may have gone somewhere else, to another country. It was before Brexit, so I could go somewhere else in Europe easily. But coming to the south of France and buying a house cemented our life in France, I think. And then once your children start school in France, and when I opened my company, then I can't just drop everything and leave. So I can't run this company from somewhere else.
Before we wrap up, let's talk about the Riviera itself. It's a place that captures the imagination of so many people around the world. But what is it really like to live here? Would you say life on the French Riviera is as glamorous as people imagine?
Well, I don't think my life is very glamorous, but it could be. I could go to Cannes every day and walk down the Croisette and buy things in Dior. But no, I mean, when you live here, it's real life. But at the same time, you can say, oh, let's go and have a drink down at the beach today and drink champagne on the beach if you want to.
And can afford it.
Yes. It's not something to do every day.
If you had to pick one spot that truly represents the essence of the region, what would it be?
I don't know if it represents the essence of the region, but I think Grasse is a great place. A lot of people do not agree with me on this because Grasse has a bad reputation. The centre of town is a real place. People live there, and it's not always clean, and it's not lovely like Saint-Paul-de-Vence, but it's a real town, and you can see there's real industry here. And we have a mayor who's really trying to make Grasse into a living town with lots of businesses and restaurants and students. It's taking time, but he's doing it. So
he's in his first mandate or second mandate, you know?
I think it might even be more.
Even more? Because he's quite young, isn't he?
He's quite young, but he's very popular. He's been the mayor since I arrived 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he never has a second round of voting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's very popular. But he really is doing an amazing job.
Mm-hmm. So you'd say grass is underrated.
Yes.
Even though, well, there's a history, it's an actual historic centre.
Yes.
There's an actually worldwide industry. I mean, it's a small town, and all the perfume, all the great names of perfume, who are your clients, are here in Grasse.
Yes.
So that's a very good pick.
And actually, people don't realise this. They see Grasse and they see Fragonard and Molinard, but there are some very big perfume and flavours and fragrance around Grasse. And you have their ingredients in your house. You just have no idea. So your laundry detergent, your shampoo, your perfume, your Baileys that you're drinking, a lot of those fragrances and flavours are made in Grasse.
Interesting. It's not only about Lancôme and Dior and Chanel coming back in the region and growing the actual flowers that they will use in their perfumes, but it's also, there's a lot of exports worldwide in daily life.
Everywhere in the world.
Impressive.
Yes.
I didn't know this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have a personal favourite place, a hidden gem or a spot that feels like home to you, like your favourite place, like some place you like going?
Oh, there are so many amazing places. I would say two things. One is a hike in Corm, which is my favourite hike. I will go and do that whenever I can.
Where is Corm?
It's past Gordon, in the back of it's in the, I don't know where it's going to, but it's in the mountains behind Grasse somewhere. And there's an amazing walk there. And the other one is to go in the summer, to go really early in the morning to the beach in Mondelieu or Théoul and have a swim before all the tourists get to the beach. And that's one of my favourite things to do.
Amazing. Do you swim all year round, like some people do? Or?
Not really. I'm not against it, but it gets a bit cold and I think I don't really feel like taking off my clothes.
Looking ahead, how do you see the region evolving, both in terms of business opportunities and cultural life?
I think that there's a lot, as I said, there's a lot of business support here, and they really want to make it a hub for French tech and all the businesses that surround it. So I think it's a good place to start a business. There's a big ecosystem, business ecosystem. So if you do something that supports other businesses, especially in the tech industry, I think you have a really good chance here. So I think that's going to develop.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Catherine. This has been an insightful conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Living the Dream French Riviera. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share, follow and like. It really helps others discover the podcast. You can find more about Cathe and other inspiring women building meaningful lives on the Riviera on our website, livingthedreampodcast.com. And if you'd like to support my work, you'll also find a link there to help me keep creating new episodes of Living the Dream. A heartfelt thank you to Claire Long, whose music adds warmth and emotion to every episode. I am Cecile Liconnet, and this has been Living the Dream French Riviera podcast. À bientôt!